Assalamu alaikum. I hope you're doing well. So in this video we will go over lab 1.5.1. This was the lab that was there in week 7. So if you download week 7 RAR file from Moodle, you will find this lab in session 1, in the folder session 1. So there is another Word document as well that has the same thing, but I'll start with the packet tracer, and then I'll follow the tasks from here. Okay, because there are some changes, and I mean there are some differences between the packet tracer activity and the Word document. So I think it's better to follow the packet tracer activity because the completion is based on what you do according to these instructions. So the first thing that I would do is I'll just follow the steps. I mean, the tasks that are provided here. So first is cable the Ethernet links of the network. You cable the devices using the appropriate cable. Connect R1 router to the switch S1, and it should be on fast Ethernet 00 for R1 and fast R1 router, and fast Ethernet 01 on the switch. This should be S1, but for some reason it's written R1. So you would pick the appropriate cable. In this case, we would use a straight through cable because the connection between the router and the switch will be straight through, as they're different devices. So you would pick the interface 00 on the router and 01 on the switch. Okay, it's red for now, but we'll fix that later. The next thing is you need to connect PC1 to switch 1, or to S1. So you would use a straight through cable, straight through Ethernet cable, and connect the NIC. Whenever you see the NIC, that means nothing but the fast Ethernet port. So on your PC, you have a fast Ethernet port that's considered NIC. Okay. So you would pick that, and on the switch you would pick fast Ethernet 02, which is as mentioned here. Okay. The next thing is you need to connect PC2 to the router R2, and in this case we would use the crossover Ethernet cable. Just remember that when you're connecting a router to a PC, just use a crossover cable. So this would be fast Ethernet 0, and then this one would be I think the same, yes, fast Ethernet 0. Since there is no switch between PC2 and router 2, crossover cable is required for a direct link between PC and router. Okay, just remember that. The next thing is we would cable the serial link. So all of these cabling was done using the fast Ethernet or the Ethernet cable. But just remember that when you're connecting routers together, you need to use the serial cable. Okay, and the serial cable will always go into the serial port. They also mentioned that the DTE end of the serial cable should be on R2 and the DCE end should be on R1. That means when you pick the DCE cable from here, the DCE end should be the first place you connect. Okay, so because the DCE is R1, that's where I will start connecting from, and it says it should be in serial 00. That's what I would select, and then on the next port again serial 00. Okay, just to make sure if you've done it correctly, just hover over the red triangle wherever there's a clock. If you can notice, this is a small clock. That is the DCE end, and in this case the DCE is on router 1, as they've mentioned. So we've done that correctly. Okay, now the third task is to establish a console connection to router 1 R1, sorry. So console connection, for console connections, you'll always use the console cable. So you would pick that, connect PC1, and it would always go into RS232. That would be the port you would choose for console cable. So anytime you're connecting a console cable, pick RS232. And it should be connected to the router at R1 on the console port. Again, this will always be the same. You will always plug the console cable in the console port on the router. Okay. So we're done with that. We connected it on the console, and then we connected to PC1. The next thing is we need to create a terminal connection. Why do we use this console cable first? We use this console cable because the router itself or the network devices, they don't have monitors or keyboards or mouse. So how can you configure them? You need to set them up so that they can work on the network. But how do we do that? Ideally, and this is how it's done in real world as well, you would connect a laptop to your network device using the console cable. So you would pick a console cable, you'll put it in the console port of the device, and then you will configure it from your computer, laptop, or whatever device you connected. So that's how you would do it. And this is exactly what they're trying to show you here. So if you click on the PC and go to desktop and then terminal, you would see all of these settings. Just make sure that these are the same as the settings that they've mentioned here in the activity wizard. Once you've verified that, click on OK, and now you will see you're connected to the router. So you're able to access the command line of the router on the PC. Okay, so this is the first thing that would show up. It says press return to get started. Just press enter and you will see this. Okay, this now the router for writing the commands has different modes. Okay, different modes. This one is the user mode, and you can't do many things on the user mode. So what we usually do is we move to the privilege mode. That's where a lot of commands can be written. And then we have a configure mode as well, global configuration mode. So the first thing is you need to move to the privilege mode. Okay. That's in task 4. So I'm following what they're asking me to do. This is your hyperterminal. Okay. So hyperterminal is done. We've established the connection. Now you need to move to the privilege exec mode. It's either called the privilege mode or exec mode, or you can use both the words together. So to move to that mode, you have to write enable. Okay, either write enable or just write en. Okay, enable or en, and then you would notice that the angle bracket is now changed to a hash symbol. That's your privileged exec mode. Okay. Here, they're asking you to write or to issue the command erase start up config. Okay, and then it's asking for confirmation. Just press enter, and it has the router has basically removed the startup config. Startup config is nothing but a settings file that is used to set up everything when the router is started or when it is switched on. Okay, okay, now the next step is when the prompt returns issue reload command. So just write reload, press enter again, and now it's reloading your router. So it's starting again, finishing the boot process. Okay. Would you like to enter the initial configuration dialog? We don't want to do that because it's mentioned here that we shouldn't be doing that. So just write no, and then we're back to the beginning. Okay. So here the next step is establish a hyperterminal session to R2 repeat steps. Okay, so the same thing that we've done here, we need to go and do it on the other router and PC. So I will close this for now. And the first thing is I would establish the connection for the console. So this would go in the console port. This would go in the RS232. I would go to the PC, desktop, terminal, check if the settings are the same. They are the same, they're usually the same. Click on OK, and there we are. We need to move to the privilege mode, right? Erase, start up config, press enter. It's erased, right? Reload, um, proceed, press enter, and it reloads your device, or basically, right, like restarts. Okay, and then when it asks you for a configuration dialog, you just say no, and that is it. We're done with router 2 as well. Now it says go back to router 1 and establish a hyperterminal session, enter the executive mode, enter an incorrect command. And observe the router response. So go back to PC1 terminal, again, start the hyper terminal session, right? Enable, move to privileged zone, mode, privileged mode, and write something, write an incorrect command and see what happens. So what basically happens is that the router tries to figure out what you're trying to write by making a request, by so basically it's thinking that what you're writing is like a domain, like a website name or something. So it's trying to search for it, and it's not going to find it because nothing like that exists. So that's what happens. So if you write something incorrect, which is totally wrong, I mean, not even part of it is correct, then the router basically starts searching for it. Okay, and it will take some time, but it will be back once the response is displayed. Okay, so now right now it's telling you that unknown command or computer name, unable to find the computer address. So it couldn't recognize it as a command, and it also couldn't recognize it as a computer or an address or a domain. Okay, so correct the previous command. To correct an incorrectly entered command. Okay, so you've written something before, right? What they're trying to tell you here is how to select the command that you've previously written. All you do is you press the up arrow on your keyboard and it shows you the previous command that you've written. Okay, that allows you to correct your mistakes. And then you can just move the right right arrow to basically move to the right side, left arrow to move to the left side, and just fix your mistake. And if something needs to be deleted, you just use the backspace, which is the delete kind of button. Okay, now we'll start from step 5 now. Return to privileged zone mode. We're already there. Examine the commands that are available for privileged executive mode. A question mark can be entered at the prompt. Okay, so you can put a question mark to see what commands are available on this mode. And there's a list. You can either press enter, so it increases step by step and you can see one thing at a time, or you can press the space bar to see the next few commands at one time. So that's what I've showed you here. View using spacebar. The remainder of the output is in more. We've seen that. Exit from privilege. Okay, when you want to exit, now you're already in the privilege mode, right? Let's say you want to go back to the user mode. You would just write exit and it will take you to the user mode. One thing that is very helpful is that when you want to, you don't have to type the whole thing. You can just write some letters and press tab and it will try to figure out the command that you're trying to type. Okay, so what I did here was I just wrote en and then I pressed tab and it showed me, oh, maybe you're trying to say enable. That's another way of writing commands. So now we will go to task 6. The first thing that we need to do is, okay, we're already in that privilege exec mode. Now you need to enter the global configuration mode. How do we enter into the global configuration mode? It looks something like this. You have to write config or configure terminal. That's one way of writing it, or you just write config space T. They're the same, configure terminal or config T. Press enter and notice now you can see this config. This this mode is basically the global configuration mode. When you want to configure something, let's say IP addresses or change the name of the router or anything where configuration comes into play, you have to be in the global configuration mode. Okay, so the next step is basically to change the name of the router from route, and right now it's called router, but you need to change it to R1. So how would we do that? You would just write host name, just like the command here, space the name you want to give it. So the new name would be the name here. So host name R1. Press enter and now notice it's changed to R1. This means you've done it correctly. The next thing is you need to disable DNS lookup, which is no IP domain lookup. And it would you can just write it the same way it is given to you in the step. So you would write no IP domain lookup. And if you want to enable the IP domain lookup, you would just remove the no. So it would look something like this. So this is the second command is for enabling IP domain lookup, and the first one is for disabling IP domain. When you write no, it is for disabling. Okay. Now if you write something like this, it will not start searching for it as a domain. Okay. Previously, when we saw for the incorrect command, it was trying to search something on the domain. But now it will not because we've disabled the IP domain lookup. The next thing is you need to enable password, which is to configure exec mode password. So in the user mode, the password that you need to set is basically this password. How do you set this password? You would just write enable password, and the password that they give you is student. So student, enable password student. Okay. The next thing is enable secret class, because they're asking you to enable secret password, which is basically class. The next thing is we need to remove the enable password since enable secret is configured. I said both of them are the same thing. One of them is just plain text and the second one is encrypted. So what you can do is you can either set both, you can set either one of them. Okay, we've already set the secret, which is more secure, so we can remove the password. Okay, so in this case, you would just write no enable password. Okay, and it would remove the password. Then the next thing is you need to set the message of the day. Okay, the message of the day is nothing but a warning. And in order to set a message of the day, you have to write it this way: banner MOTD, which is message of the day, and one hash, the message you want to display. So only for IT6003, and then end with hash. So you start the message with a hash and then you end it with hash also. Okay, press enter. Now the banner is set. Okay, the message of the day banner is set. The next thing is you need to configure console password, and the password should be Cisco. And this is how you would do it. There are multiple commands for this particular step, and you need to do all of them. You need to execute all of them. So in order to set the password. So the first thing you would do is you would say line console 0. That's how you will always write for the console. The first thing we need to do is we need to go to that console port. Okay, when you say console password, you're saying, okay, there's a console port on the router, and if anyone plugs a cable there and tries to access the device from that particular console port, they should enter a password. Okay, so what we are going to do, we're going to that particular console interface or port using this command, and now you will see that the config has changed to config line. That means we're now in the console port, basically. Okay, there we need to set the password Cisco. Okay, to set the password, you would write password and then the password that they give you, and then you would write exit. You can either write login here, and then on the next line you can write exit, but it's up to you. It doesn't really change anything. Just write exit or login. It's up to you. But you have to exit, basically. You have to exit. So there are basically three. Okay, you know what? Just do it this way. 3 lines. Line console 0, password Cisco, and then exit. Okay, and then line VTY. Okay, sorry. I have to explain this before. So basically, you have virtual terminal lines as well on the router. We can set password for those lines as well. Now, there are usually many lines, but by default, there are 5 lines, and they're numbered 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 0 is the first one, and 4th is the last one. Usually in your question, they will tell you to set the password on virtual terminal lines, and they will tell you on how many lines you should set the password. So you can either set on 3 lines, all the lines, 2 lines, 1 line. So in this case, they've not mentioned, so you would assume that it is only you. So you can assume that it is supposed to be on all the 5 lines. Okay, so just like console, you have to write line VTY, which stands for virtual terminal lines 0, 4. So it starts from 0, ends at 4, and there is a space in the middle. Okay, enter password Cisco, exit. Okay, and then there you have the terminal set. Uh, the password for terminal lines they're set now. The next thing is we need to configure the fast Ethernet interface with IP 192.168.1.1. Activate the interface by using the no shutdown command. Now we're supposed to set IP addresses on the interface port, on the fast Ethernet ports or fast Ethernet interfaces. So in order to set, just like how for the console, we went to the console port, right? And for that, we used line console 0. Here, we need to write interface F0/0, or you can even write fast Ethernet 0/0/0. It's up to you. You have to go to that particular interface. Okay. Now you will notice the config has changed to config IF, which is for the interface. Okay. So here I would write IP address 192.168.1.1. That's the IP address, I think, for FA00. Yeah, and the subnet mask should also be there. So it's 255.255.255.0. IP address, the address itself, and the subnet mask. Okay, press enter. One important thing that you need to write is basically no shutdown. Okay, if you don't write the no shutdown, the link will not work. So for example, just take a look here. It's red right now, right? So if I write no shutdown, it will become green. That means no shutdown means turn it on. If you want to shut it down, you would write shutdown. and it will become red again. Okay, so no shutdown is very important. So there are 3 steps here. I will show it to you again. And you have to exit as well. So exit. So again, we will go through it again so it becomes clear. Oh, again, sorry, I forgot about this. Use the description command to provide a description for this interface. So I would go back to this interface, fast Ethernet 00, and you can even write descriptions for them. So you would write the word description and then just any text that can describe this interface. So belongs to LAN. Okay, and then exit. Okay, so if you want to set the description, you can set it. Usually it will be given in the question if you should be setting the description or not. The next thing is to configure fast Ethernet 00 interface with IP address 3.1. Activate the interface no shutdown. Oh, sorry, I'm at the wrong place. I should be here. My bad. I should be here. Yeah, use the description command. Okay, now we need to configure this serial interface. How do we configure? The same way. Interface. Instead of serial, you can just write S 0/0/0/0, and then you set the IP address. IP address 192.168.2.1. The subnet mask I think was 255. Yeah, 255.255.255. So I would scroll back down to 255.255.255.0. Okay, again, no shutdown to turn the interface on. And because this was the DCE port, the router 1, so basically we're trying to configure router 1, and router 1, if you remember, let me show it to you here, has the DCE end on the serial cable. So for that, we have to basically provide a clock rate. Okay, so as in the question, we will provide the clock rate 64,000. Okay, so clock rate 64,000. Okay, and then we also need to set a description. So I will just write description WAN link. Okay, and then just end or exit. It's up to you. Okay, now save the R1 configuration using the copy running config startup config command. So you can use the copy running config this command to basically copy the running config settings from the running config file to the startup config file. Okay, so I will just write that here. Sorry, copy running config startup config. I'll just use the default. So here they're asking you if you want to change the name of the startup config. We will not change it. We'll just press enter to take the default name, and that's it. We're done with that step as well. Now for task 7, basic configuration of router 2, we would close this, go to PC2 the same way, establish the terminal, and repeat all the steps through steps 1 through 11 from task 3. So steps 1 to 11. Where is task 3? I think they meant task 6 and not 3. So we'll start from there. We'll first configure the name. So host name should be R2. I've changed that. Then there should be no IP domain, IP domain lookup. That is done. And then we enable secret class because I'm not going to enable the password because we eventually had to remove it. Then I will write the banner. So banner MOTD router 2, something with router 2. Then console line password. So line console 0 password, I think Cisco. And then exit line VTY04. The same things that we did on the other router. Exit. We finished until step 11, right? As they mentioned. Now here we have to start configuring the serial interface. So we would write interface S000, and then the IP address as mentioned here is 192.168.2.2. Default subnet mask, it's mentioned in the table. No shutdown to turn on the interface, and description WAN link. Then yeah, then exit, move to interface of interface F00. The IP address is 192.168.3.1, 255.255.255.0. No shutdown. Description is LAN network. LAN. Okay, and end. Do the same thing. Copy running config to startup config. Choose the same name, and we're done with task 7. Now in task 8, IP addressing for the host PCs. So I would close this, and in PC2 IP configuration, I would write 192.168.1.3, because this is PC2. So 3.10. 255.255.255 default gateway is 192.168.3.1. Okay, so we're done with the first PC, the second PC. Sorry, we're done with the second PC. Now the first PC is 192.168.1.10, and the same default gateway. Okay, so we're done with that as well. Now the router commands, enter the show running config to see the config file. So I can just go directly to the router here and do the same thing. Show running config. It will show me all the settings that are currently running. Okay, we know that we set up a secret. We know we changed the host name. We know that we have set passwords on the serial description and password on the serial link. We have set a description and password, not password, sorry, description and IP address on the fast Ethernet link. We said no IP domain lookup, all of these things. We've set all of these, right? And we've set console password and VTY password as well, and the banner also. So this is what is currently happening. Now, if we see the startup config, which is start up config, again, we can see what is basically what settings are basically there on the router. And start running config is right now what is basically running on the router. Startup config is the file, the settings file that will be used for startup. There's another method for show interface. And here you can see all the interfaces one by one. It gives you a description of the interfaces one by one. So this is serial 001. It is basically down, which means it's not running right now. There is no IP configured. If you take a look at the other serial 000 is up, it is running. That's why it's green. It has a description. It has an IP address and so on and so forth. So you can see all of these settings, but these are too long to go through. So if you want a brief description, you can just use the same command, show, it should be show IP interface brief. And here you would see that um, briefly, Fast Ethernet 00 has this IP and it's running right now. And the Fast Ethernet 01 is basically, it doesn't have any IP address and it is not running, it is down. Okay, so that's one way of seeing all the ports all together. Then you have something called show version, and it basically displays the information about the software that is being used, along with the information about the hardware of the device, which is the software and the hardware of the router that you're using. Okay. The task 10 has task 10 basically, you're supposed to ping. So you would write ping router 1 to PC1. So PC1 was 192.168.1.10, and let's see if it is going to work. Okay, success was 4 out of 5, which means one of the requests basically timed out. So we'll ping it again, and now it's uh, all requests were successful, so it's working properly. You can also ping from PC. So you can go to command prompt, write ping 192.168.1.1, which is the IP address of the router, and it works perfectly. So you can do that as well. Now there is something called the extended ping. Okay, I'll show it to you from the router. You just write the word ping, press enter. It asks you for the protocol, press enter, which is IP. Here you would enter the address, so 192.168.1.10, the address of the PC. The repeat count, you can change that. How many times do you want to repeat it? By default, it repeats 5 times. You can repeat it, let's say, 10 times. Datagram size, don't have to touch that. Just accept the default for all the others and see that all the 10 requests that were sent were successfully received. So the success rate is 100%. So this is how you would do an extended ping on the router. On the PC, the extended ping is a little bit different. You would go to command prompt and write ping -n for extended, how many times you want to repeat it. So let's say I want to repeat it 10 times. So one, and then the address itself, 192.168.1.1, which is the router. So notice that previously we only sent 4 requests, right? Right now it's going to send 10 requests because we wrote 10 here in the command. Okay. So that's task 10. That's how you would basically ping. Now trace route. So I would go back to the router here and I would write trace route, select IP, put an IP address. I'll use the PC IP address, and then I would the source address would be 192.168.1.1, which is the router IP address. The numeric display, just accept the defaults for the rest. Okay, and that means it just shows you the route it will take, or the path it will take for the packet to travel from the router to the PC. Okay. And on from the PC, you can go to the command prompt, write trace rt, which is root, and then sorry, it should be trace rt 192.168.1.1, and it shows you the routes it would take to basically go to the the designated IP. Okay, now we need to create a start .txt file. Basically, what you're going to do is I would go back to the router and see the running config. So show running config. Okay, and then select the output and copy everything. So first of all, I would end it here and then select everything. Oops, sorry. Where is it? Yes. Okay. I will copy all of this using the copy button here. Okay, and then I would open Notepad on my PC, paste it here, and then I need to do these things that are mentioned here. So add no shutdown command to fast Ethernet and serial interfaces that are being used. I hope this is on the router on R1 basically. Okay, I think it is on R1, but anyway. Um, we already have no shutdown for the interfaces. Actually, no, we don't. So let's try to add those. No shutdown. This is what they're trying to tell you. So the interfaces that have IP address assigned, just add no shutdown to those. Okay, and then replace the encrypted text in enable secret with appropriate password. Enable secret. So it's somewhere, yeah. Um, let me make it a little bit big. Okay, remove it and write, let's say, I don't know, class, something like that. And then the next thing is you need to remove the MAC address from the interfaces. There are no MAC addresses on the interfaces from what I know. Yeah, so no need to do that. Then what else? Remove IP classless. So I would remove this. Then remove the unused interfaces. So this is not used because there is no IP address assigned, and this one is also not used, and this one is also not used. So I can just remove those. Okay, and now save this. So I named it start.txt, saved that. And then in step 13, we need to load it on R1 again. So you need to erase startup config, confirm, and then reload the same way that we did initially. write no, and then press enter. Enter the global configuration mode using config T and enable. Um, and then select all the lines in the notepad. So I would go to I will select all of them from the notepad, and from the terminal window, right click your mouse in the window and paste. Or you can just click here, paste. Okay. Then after all pasted above, you can use the show running. So I can use the show running config to see if everything was there. Yes, I think everything was there. Yeah. So that is it. Um, Save the running configuration to NVRAM. Okay, so just use copy running to startup config. So it is saved in the same startup configuration file. At the end, you should have 100%, which we already do. So I think that's it for this activity. Let's check results. It would show something like if there's anything wrong, it would show a cross. If everything is correct, it would show a tick mark. This is a good way of checking where you've gone wrong. So yeah, that will help you a lot. So there are two tasks that we did not do. R1 static route and R2 default static route. This is in the document CCNA lab 1.5.1. Oops, sorry, I didn't want to close it. Let me open it again. Okay, so we didn't do these two tasks, and that's what we will do now. But before that, let me give you a bit of introduction for this. Let's move this here. So here we have router 1 and router 2. Router 1 generally knows about this network, okay? Router 2 knows about this network. And both the routers, they also know about the network or the subnet in the middle. But if we think about PC1, which is here, which has 192.168.1.10 as the IP address, if it tries to ping this PC here, let's see what happens. It can either request, the request can either time out, or it can say that the destination host is not reachable. So in this case, it is timed out. And in this case, let's see, it is host is unreachable. So that is because the routers cannot find the networks. So this is a separate network. This router is not aware of this network. So if you go to the router and try to write show IP route, it shows you the route or the routes that the IP is aware that the router is aware of. This router knows about the network 1.0 and 2.0. 1.0 because of this link here, this cable, the black cable, and 2.0 because of this serial link here. The other router, if we take a look at it, it knows about its own links. So it knows about 2.0 and 3.0. So this router doesn't know about 1.0 from here, and this router doesn't know about 3.0. If I can write it here, it will be 192.168.1.0. This is the network here. This network is 192.168.3.0, and in the middle we have 192.168.2.0. Okay, so the router itself, this router knows about 1.0 and 2.0. This router knows about 3.0 and 2.0. So router 2 doesn't know about 1.0 and router 1 doesn't know about 3.0. How can we change that? What the thing that I just showed you is this is basically the routing table. This whole thing here, sorry. This is the routing table, which keeps the records of all the connections to the routers or all the routes that the router knows about. What you can do is you can statically or manually add the network that the router doesn't know about. Okay, so here I would write, this is router 1. Router 1 doesn't know about the network 3.0. So I can manually add that into the routing table using the command, first of all, config t, and then IP route 192.168.3.0, the network address of the network that you're trying to find, the subnet mask, which is 255.255.255.0, and um, the next hop. The next hop is basically the IP address of the next device. So this is R1 where we're configuring it. R1 should forward the packet to R2 so that it can reach to this PC, right? So you need to figure out the IP address of the next device that's connected to this router. So this router is connected to R2. We need to find out what address is on this serial. So if you hover over it, you can see serial 00 is 2.2. Okay, so 192.168.2.2. Okay, so you were trying to figure out this network, the subnet mask is this, and then the next hop is basically the next device that's connected to it, the IP address of the next device. Okay, now if we try to ping now, it will still not work. That is because only this router knows about this network. This router doesn't know about this network. We need to make sure that both the routers that are trying to communicate on the network know each other. Okay, so in this case, the same thing you would do on the other end, config t and IP route 1. Now here, the router 2 knows about 3.0 and 2.0. It doesn't know about 1.0. So that's what we're trying to add. 192.168.1.0. Subnet mask is 255.255.255.0. And the next hop is now R2 is connected to R1. So we need to find the IP address on this end. So if you hover over the device, it will tell you the serial, sorry, it will tell you the serial, oops, it will tell you the serial 000 has 192.168.2.1. Okay, so that is what I will add, 192.168.2.1. And if now I try to ping from PC1 to PC2, sorry, yeah, PC1 to PC2, let's see if it works. Okay, it didn't work. Let's see what is the problem. So first of all, I will exit from here and then write show IP route. I can see that R2 knows about 1.0 through 192.168.2.1, which is the serial port. And here, if I do the same, exit, show IP route, R1 knows about 3.0 from, okay, so the issue here is the default gateway is not set for some reason. So you have to write 192.168.1.1 in the desktop, in the PC, and try it again. Now it should work. Okay, so sometimes that is the issue. The reason I didn't edit this out is because I want you to see, maybe if you make the same mistake, you know where to look for the answer. So yes, now we can ping both the PCs. All you have to do is figure out which network is not being reached, add that network to the static route accordingly, and find the next hop or the next device that's connected, find the IP of that. Now, there are other ways of writing it. For example, let's say I want to remove it. I want to remove, I made a mistake when writing, let's say, the route. So I want to remove the route from it. So I can write it this way, config T. Let's say this is the route that I wrote. If I want to remove it, I have to write no. Just write no before it and it's going to remove. And if you look at the show IP route, now it's removed. Okay. One other way of writing this route is basically using the exit interface. So instead of writing the IP address of the next hop, you can write the exit interface of this particular device. So this R2 is connected to R1 using serial 000, right? So you can just write 0 S000. That's serial 00 because that's how it's connected to R1. Oh, I forgot to remove no. And it should be the same thing. And now if you even try, if you try to ping again, it should work. Now, one thing that is mentioned here is the distance metric. Okay, the distance metric is just a number. Just remember it like this. It's a number that you can add to your IP route. Okay, so instead of writing it like this, I will remove again. First, let me remove the no. You would write the IP route as 0/0/0 and just at the end write the number 10. Whatever number they give you as the distance metric, just write that and press enter. That's it. Okay, that's for distance metric. Now, I think what I've done is not according to the question. Because on R2, they want you to configure a default static route, which is to allow communication between 3.0 and any network. Use R2 S00 as the exit interface. Okay, so here, instead of this IP route, I will write it the other way. So they want you to be able to communicate with any network. So for that, for whenever the question says default static route, just write 0/0/0/0. And the subnet, if it is default static, the subnet is also 0/0/0/0. And at the end, they want you to use the what's it called? S00 as the exit interface. So it would be S0/0/0. Okay. And that should be it. Okay, so this is basically the default static route. And if you use the particular network address and the subnet mask, then it's basically the static route. Okay, that's it for this video. I hope it's clear. If you have any questions, let me know. For the midterm exam, please practice the mock exam as many times as you can. If you have any questions, let me know. Please don't let me know at the very end when even I can't help you. If you need help, please send me an email as soon as possible so I can help you out. And yeah, have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.